see. We're on fourth page of the copies, page Ches. And we were speaking about that the Yidden are the level of Bikurim. Bikurim, they are considered Bikurim first fruits because it's a level of Rashis. It shows us something that begins and is higher than everything, higher than Seder Shtalshlos. And even in the other Rashis, in the Rashis of Truma, Yidden are higher even, the Rashis of Torah, which is also associated with Truma, Yidden are preceding even the level of Torah, and they're higher than the level of Torah. And that level of the Bikurim has to be elevated and revealed, because the way the Yidden are higher than Seder Shtalshlos, that's the way the Neshama is above. But since the Neshama down here below is only the regel, only the foot of the Neshama that comes down here into this world, it's not the entirety of the Neshama. And that part of the Neshama is not really connected and manifesting that level of Bikurim. So we need to bring the Bikurim to the Beis HaMikdash. We need to bring it up like you bring up a carbon. And together with the bringing up, or bring up the Neshama to connect it with above, in a similar vein, we need to bring down from above to below. That's the idea of a Samta Batena, that we're placing it in the Kalim, Oiris Bekalim. We're also doing the level of Nisa V'Amarta, the idea of proclaiming. That's the connection and the bringing down and the joining of the Neshama above with the Neshama in the body. So that's the mitzvah Bikurim. That since the Yidden are higher than Seder Shtalshlos, but when they come down here in this world, they are disconnected. So that mitzvah Bikurim is the rejoining or reconnecting of the Neshama above with the Neshama in the body. So now the Maimer is going to continue with the idea that he asked about the Hashem Elokecha Noisin Lach. In the pasuk it says that you will come to the land that Hashem is giving you. And we said he uses two expressions. He uses an expression of a gift, and he uses an expression of a Yerusha, inheritance, and a gift and an inheritance are really two different and distinct things. So now he's going to explain each one specifically. What is the significance, beruchni, spiritually, of the idea of a gift, Hashem Elokecha Noisin Lach, and then afterwards he's going to explain the spiritual significance of an inheritance. So we're holding on line 18, page Ches, the fourth page of the copies. Concerning this, it says that Hashem Elokecha gives this to you, that it's something that Hashem gifts to you. But in Yibazah, the idea behind this is the Lechuri Yipole, seemingly it's going to be a wonder. How is it possible in the person to join the foot of the neshama with the level of the high part of the neshama, the root of the neshama above, that we said in the previous ice, that's called the mazel of the neshama, like it says that mazlayu chazi, the mazel of the neshama saw and caused them to tremble down here. Why is that such a big wonder? Since the foot of the neshama is the level it's enclosed in the body, all matters of the body are completely incomparable to matters of above. The Rebbe brings over here an interesting example. To be able to see and to be able to realize how far, what type of great distance, what type of great chasm there is between the neshama and in the body in regards and in comparison to anything going on upstairs. Not only the neshama upstairs, which is a very high level, we said the neshama is higher than Seder Shtalshlos, but anything in the spiritual realms, we have no way of comprehending it unless we have physical, mundane analogies and examples from the physical world, because we have such a lack of comprehension of the spiritual world that this is the only way we can have any type of appreciation of spirituality, by using physical examples. So if so, since we are so far that we cannot comprehend and relate to anything spiritual without using examples and metaphors from the physical plane, so if we're at such a distance, the last line of the page asks, how is it possible for the foot of the neshama that's enclosed in the physical body down here that has no way of comprehending spirituality? So how could it, if it can't even comprehend spirituality, how could it be bound up with the mazel of the neshama? Let's just take this apart a little bit more. In much cases, the first step to any connection with something is that we understand and appreciate it. Then afterwards, we can have a bond and a joining between them. This is especially so in the spiritual realms. So this again showing how it should be impossible for us to bond with the neshama above, because it's not just we can't bond with the neshama above because we're down here alone, that's above, but we have even no comprehension of things above in general. So we're not in the same plane of existence, we're not in the same relationship with anything, and all of a sudden you want us to connect. He says on the top of the next page, page 10, concerning this it says, that Hashem Elokecha gives to you. There's a special empowerment from above, a unique and specific empowerment that Hashem empowers us to be able to comprehend and to connect and to join with the neshama above. Also, when the neshama is enclosed in the body down here below. That is the inner meaning of what it says. When you will come to the land, it's referring to the neshama descending from above and coming down into the physical earth down here. So despite that it comes down into the physical world, it's able to ascend above, and to bond and to become one being with godliness, should become one entity with godliness. Similar to what the Chazal say, that the servant of the king is the king. In other words, that someone that has a bittul telekus, he becomes totally identified in one with Alakus, and that becomes his being, that becomes who he is. Just like the servant of a king that has no independent existence whatsoever, his entire body, his entire mind, his entire being is all about the king. Therefore, there's no other existence except for the king in his being. And that's why when the servant of the king comes in, and he is accorded the same respect as the king himself, because that's who he is. His whole being is representing the king. In a similar vein, we can compare it to, even though it was that says that the brothers said to Yosef, Yehuda said to Yosef, Ki kamoicha kefare, that you are like Pari, because Yosef was not looked at as an independent entity. Yosef was looked at as an extension of Pari and his will and his directives. So the same thing, the neshama that bonds with godliness becomes so totally one that there's no separation between. So it continues in Eis Gimel, all of what was spoken about before, the level of bikurim, and that it comes down into the earth, and that it connects with the neshama above, the neshama that's in the body connects with the neshama above, and you got to bring it up to Hashem. All of this is concerning what occurs with the neshama. There's no discussion and dealings and what are we doing about the body over here. Also, when the neshama descends below, you'll come down into the earth. You need to bond it and connect it and join it with its root and source above. But we all know that the neshama is not the sole purpose, if not the main purpose, of the descent and the creation of this world. The ultimate purpose, the goal of the descent of the neshama down here below. It's not for its own sake. The neshama itself is not lacking anything. But rather, why the neshama came down here below is it's to refine his physical body. It's to refine his animal soul that animates his physical body, and it's to refine his part in the world, his lot in the world, those things in the world that he comes in contact with, that he engages with, that he has to elevate. After it says that when you come to the land that Hashem Elokecha gives you, this is referring to the empowerment from above that was given to the neshama when it descends down here below. Because of Yirishta, the pasuk continues, and you will inherit it. And we originally asked, like I mentioned before, giving and inheritance are contradictory. Is it a gift or is it an inheritance? Because the gift is the energy and the empowerment that the neshama is giving. The Yirishta is actually a job that the neshama has to accomplish. What does that mean? She says, it's the idea of the inheritance of the land, taking it out of the possession of the 7 nations. So we are claiming our inheritance, we are claiming that which we have received from Avraham Avinu, to extract and take out the land from the domain of the 7 nations and bringing it into the domain of Am Yisrael. What is that spiritually? That means the idea of inheriting the land is about refining the 7 attributes, the 7 emotional attributes of the animal soul. Through refining the animal soul, Yershim ha'oiris the Shiva Malchin the Toyu Shenaflu Madrigos, we inherit the lights of the 7 kings of the world of Toyu, that they fell down from their levels. It says that there was the 7 primordial kings. It's referring, we have this at the end of Parshas Vayishlach. There were 7 kings of Esav. It says over there that each one, they reigned and they died. So this is referring to the 7 in the spiritual realms, the 7 emotional attributes of the world of Toyu, that they crashed and fell. The man the nafal medarge ikrimis, in the Kabbalah it says the one that falls from his level is called dead. So these are the 7 kings of Toyu that they are said in Parshas Vayishlach to have died, meaning that they fell down into klippas. And so these fell down to klippas, and they are also embedded and vested in the 7 attributes of Nefesh Bahamis. We need to refine and elevate these sparks that fell into our Nefesh Bahamis from the world of Toyu. This is the general idea of the refinement of the sparks of the world of Toyu that's in the physical things. And how do we refine the sparks that are in the physical things? Through the avodah of refining one's body, and refining one's animal soul, and refining that lot that he was apportioned to in the world to engage with and to elevate. So he's refining and elevating the sparks of the world of Toyu that were embedded in his animal soul and it was embedded in the world and so on. So that in a similar vein he says, V'cheinu gam be'inyan habikurim. So too, it's concerning the idea of bikurim. Even though prior to this in the Maimer, we were only speaking about Bikurim in regards to the Neshama, the truth is that this connection and this elevation of the Neshama to its source, that the Neshama in the body is connected to its source, really gets a high impact, also the elevation of the sparks of the world of Toyu, the level of V'yirishta. So he says, Again, line 25. In addition to the joining of the neshama in the body with its root and source above, in the two manners of both elevating the neshama that's here in the body to its source above, to the level of the bikurim of the neshama, to the mazel of the neshama, and also bringing down the mazel of the neshama down to illuminate the foot of the neshama that's down here in the body. Yes, in addition to all of that, the soul connection, there is also the effect of the drawing down into the world as well. Where do we see this? Where does this manifest itself? The fact that where is the bikurim brought? The bikurim is brought to the Beis HaMikdash. Other gifts, the vast majority of the gifts that the Kaihanim get, etc., the agricultural gifts and so on, are not things that have to be brought necessarily to the Beis HaMikdash. Rather, they are things that are shared with the Kohanim, with the Leviim, with poor people, but it's not emphasized that it has to be in Beis HaMikdash. There are things that have to be brought to Yerushalayim, like Meiser Sheni, etc. But again, it's not emphasized so much the Beis HaMikdash. Bikurim is specifically emphasized, the idea of the Beis HaMikdash, and the Beis HaMikdash, of all things, indicates this concept of bring it down to the world. It's very interesting. You would have thought, if it's outside of the Beis HaMikdash, it's more into the world. So he says, no. The Beis HaMikdash is the vehicle and the channel through which it's brought into the world. So he says, because why is that so? Line 29. It's the place, the Beis HaMikdash is the place that Hashem chose to make His name rest over there. So what's the significance of the Beis HaMikdash in regards to the rest of the world? That the Beis HaMikdash had windows that were narrow on the inside and wide on the outside, facing outward. And we've had this many times, that the purpose of that was, normally windows in those times were shaped the opposite. They were narrow on the outside and they were wide on the inside, so that the small aperture would like spread the light out into the house, into the home, into the building. Whereas in the Beis HaMikdash, the small aperture was on the inside and the wide end was on the outside. Through those windows of the Beis HaMikdash, the light went out to the entire world. That we would be able to see godliness in the physical matters, in the physical fruits. That was the purpose of bringing the bikurim, the physical bikurim, to the Beis HaMikdash, to expand and spread out this thing, that it should impact the rest of the world. It shouldn't just be about connecting the foot of my neshama with the neshama above, but it also has to impact the entire world, the nefesh habahamis, the body, his portion of the world, and that's why it had to be brought to the Beis HaMikdash, because the Beis HaMikdash was the cell tower, or the radio tower that would send the signals out and send the revelations out to the rest of the world. Any questions? Daled, line 4, is Daled on page Yud. According to this, we could also explain the connection of the idea of davening with bikurim, because we brought earlier in the Maimer that Moshe Rabbeinu saw that the Beis HaMikdash would be destroyed, and because he saw that the Beis HaMikdash would be destroyed, he was very concerned what would happen without the bikurim that's going to be brought. So because of that, he arose, the Chazal said, and established the idea of davening 3 times a day. In other words, davening 3 times a day would accomplish what a bikurim was accomplishing. Shalchein hiskin Moshe shalosh tefillos b'chol yom b'mkayim inyan habikurim shai b'zman shebeis hamikdash hayakayim. That's why Moshe established the 3 tefillas daily in the place of the bikurim that was in the times that the Beis Hamikdash stood. So the question is, why? What's the association that bikurim can be replaced by and can be whatever bikurim has to accomplish? And we now know a lot about what bikurim had to accomplish spiritually. How does tefillah take its place? So the Rebbe says in line 8, the idea behind this is tefillah yisulam what's the hearts of a tefillah, as we know and we always bring down, is a ladder standing on the ground. The top of the ladder is reaching to the heavens. Through meditating in the Psukei de Zimra part of davening. What's the content? What's the topic under discussion in the Psukei de Zimra? We're talking about how Hashem creates the worlds and runs the worlds. In other words, we're trying to emphasize how the worlds are completely nullified to Hashem. Once we go past Psukei de Zimra, we said the Brichs Yishtabach, we start the bracha of Yotzer Oyer, first bracha of Krishma, B'charcha b'Yotzer Oyer, afterwards in Yotzer Oyer, we talk about the Bittul Lechayis, V'fanim V'srofim. We talk about how the different malachim, the different levels of malachim are bottled, and what's the significance of talking about how the malachim are bottled. Sheshamu Shoresh Nefesh Habahamis called. Because over there is the root where Nefesh Habahamis comes from. It comes from the level of the malach. So therefore, the Nefesh Habahamis is impacted by the realization of the bittul of the malachim and so on. And then by Kriya Shema lebittul b'yisakta shel nefesh elokis b'shar from Kodechu. Then by Kriya Shema we come to the bittul and the joining of the godly soul in its root and its source. That joining that the neshama has, and nefesh elokis has during Kriya Shema, is similar to the joining that we say that through the bringing of bikurim, we are joining the foot of the neshama with the mazel of the neshama that's higher than Seder Shtalshus. Achar is a betfil Shemoneh Esrei. Following that in Shemoneh Esrei, Nas is Amshachas or Yisaf Mamayla Mata. Shemoneh Esrei is about not the halah, the elevation, but now we're drawing down godliness, the infinite light of Hashem, from above to below, Adlin Yom Agashmim, until it impacts physical things. Up till then in davening, we're not talking about our physical needs. We're not talking about Hashem changing the physical properties of this world. But in Shemoneh Esrei, we're davening and we're impacting and bringing ourselves down to change the physical things down here. So for those physical things, we are requesting in Shemoneh Esrei, which the 18 brachas of tefillah. Shemoneh Esrei is where we are fulfilling the positive commandment of davening. The mitzvah of davening, as the Rambam explains, is for a person to request his needs. So all the other parts of what we call davening is not really tefillah. It's all preparation for Krishma and preparation for Shemoneh Esrei. But the actual fulfillment of the mitzvahs aseh of davening is when we're asking for our needs, which is in Shemoneh Esrei. And those needs are being impacted and is causing, to fulfill those needs, we're drawing down the Ein Sof down here. That's similar to what's being drawn down from above to below that happens through the reading of the parsha of the Bikurim. So we see practically step by step what the Bikurim accomplished. We have this in the totality of davening. The raising up of the neshama to its connection above, the drawing down of the neshama above, and not just the drawing down the neshama above to connect with the neshama below, but also to impact the physical world. The same thing in davening. We have the whole entire process of bringing the Nefesh Habahamis along and elevating it, and bringing the Nefesh Elokis along and elevating it, and then drawing it down into this world. So we have the entire spiritual avoid of Bikurim being mirrored in the spiritual avoid of davening. So the Rebbe says in line 24, we can add in the explaining of the connection, association of davening to the reading of the parsha of Bikurim, specifically what we do after we actually present, or at the time that we present the Bikurim, we have to read, we have to proclaim, we have to announce. V'anisa v'amarta, it says, you will proclaim and you will say. And what does exactly the word v'anisa mean? Lashon haramas koil. It's an expression of raising one's voice. Meaning, the emphasis over here is on the power of speech. Shagam b'tfilah mudgish in adibur, also in davening, it's emphasized the idea of speech. Behind this means sha'af shalachura ha'ikar b'tfilah ina machshav v'kavona, though the primary part of davening is the thought and the intention. What is considered the avoid of the heart? That's davening. So it's about the heart. It doesn't say what's the avoid of the lips. It says love the b'chol avavchem. So tefillah is about the intention, the heart. Despite that, also speech is a primary part of davening. Why is that so? If the whole idea is avodah shebelev, why is there such an emphasis on saying it in speech? Because it has to permeate this world. Since the ultimate purpose of davening is that it should come down here below in a revealed way, therefore it's not just enough that I have the intention in my mind and I have the feeling and emotions and love and awe of Hashem in my heart. That's not sufficient for davening. We need to actually enunciate the words. We need to actually verbalize it. We need to bring it down here in a revealed way. And this matter is also hinted in the bringing of the Bikurim. It says concerning the bringing of the Bikurim, you should place it in a basket. Baal Shem Tov explains an interesting thing. The Tena Rosh Tevis Taimim Nekudis Oisius. Tena is the beginning of the words taimim, which means the cantillation, the trop, the musical notes that we read the Torah with. Nekudis is the vowel signs. Oisius is the letters. And we know that in truth there's 4 aspects of the letters. It's called tanta. Taf nun taf tes nun taf aleph. There's taibe amikra. There's nekudis. There's tagin, the crowns on the letters, and the oisius on the letters. But over here in our pasuk, it only says tena. It leaves out tagim, it leaves out the crowns. It only talks about the musical cantillations, the trop, the vowel signs, it talks about the letters. How come? This also emphasizes, just like the basket, you're placing it in the basket, you're drawing it down. These 3 things are the most revelatory part. Magid explains, why is the crowns on the letters of the Sefer Torah not hinted in the basket that you're putting the Hamshacha into? Because the crowns are not something that's expressed with our tongue, with our speech, with our language. It's only something that's written on the page, you see the crowns. It's not something that is expressed. Are not heard, revealed in speech. From here we see that speech is what's primary, and that is because of the revelation from above to below. Just like in Bikurim, it's about also bringing it down from above to below, so that's the common denominator between Bikurim and davening. The rest of the Maimer is not extant.